I'm Dr. Mark Hatala, and I want to welcome you to my office. I'm a cognitive scientist who studies time travel by replicating days from the past. And so everything that somebody would have been exposed to on a particular day. So today we're talking about December 7th, 1972. So everything from the morning papers to late night television and everything else in between. What we're going to talk about today is Johnny Carson's Monologue from December 7th, 1972. Now, he doesn't have a very well-informed audience, and one of the things about jokes is that they require context. So you have to know what someone's joking about in order to understand the joke. And so I thought I would take a video because if the audience in 1972 didn't understand the jokes, then an audience today would probably have a more difficult time. Now, the one thing about jokes is they don't get any funnier through explanation. But what I thought is I can explain, give you some background and context on the jokes, and then you can watch the full monologue on timetravelsimplified.com. So I'm just going to go through and put up some clips and then explain the joke. So let's go to the first clip, which, actually I did want to say something else too about, because I think today with all of the late night shows that are on, people don't understand how monumental the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson was. It was the cash cow for NBC at the time, which was the network that it was on. At the time, it was on 5 days a week for 90 minutes per show, per night. It generated the inflation-adjusted equivalent to $350 million a year for the network. And so they wanted to keep Johnny Carson happy. But with that said, let's go to the first joke, which is about the Apollo 17 launch.
Did you see the moonshot? Yeah. Everybody in the country wants to except Miami. Did you know that? Pete Rozelle had it blacked out.
Okay, so they still have blackouts for sporting events now. But one of the things that I think is very strange about this joke is that Pete Rozelle, who was the commissioner of football or whatever it's called, the person who runs football, everybody knew who he was. So I was 6 years old in 1972, and I knew who Pete Rozelle was. I barely know any football players today. I also knew who the commissioner of baseball was. That was Bowie Kuhn. Why was this common knowledge at the time? I have no idea. Let's go to the next clip.
Did you read the paper today? You didn't read the papers today. Well, you'll be glad you came. The California Supreme Court has ruled that nudity. See this today? They're trying to do away with the topless dancers and the bottomless dancers. Hey, I didn't do it, folks. And Carol Doda is a topless dancer. She became famous some years ago in San Francisco when her measurements increased considerably. And she said in a paper today she would like to plead her case by doing her act in front of the Supreme Court. I think she'd get a split decision. 4 in favor, 4 against, and 1 dead. It was interesting. The Supreme Court voted, and the vote was 6-3. And the 3 who voted to allow nudity were the 3 oldest judges on the Supreme Court. They just can't rely on their memories anymore. They want
Okay, this requires some explanation. So the Condor Club was kind of a famous bar entertainment venue in San Francisco. And they had the first, and it was getting raided by the police all the time. They had the first topless entertainers in 1964 and the first bottomless entertainers in 1969. Now, Carol Doda, who Johnny Carson refers to, she was being arrested all the time too for lewd behavior. And she was arrested in 1967 for a pornographic film that was called Guru U. And they beat the rap by saying that it wasn't actually pornography, that it was satire of pornography. And so they dismissed the case. She also is one of the first cases of someone who had breast augmentation. And so, yeah. Let's go to the next clip.
Now, here's something that I think a lot of mothers probably have known for a long time. Medical findings in the paper today. Doctors announced that chicken soup was more effective than most of the cold remedies that are advertised on the market today. Did you read that? Chicken soup. Now, Jewish mothers have known that for years. Isn't that what they call it? The Jewish penicillin?
Yes.
Chicken
Right,
soup?
Right.
That's kind of wild, isn't it? Chickens never catch cold. You ever seen a chicken?
Never saw a chicken with a cold.
Chapped lips. They don't even get chapped lips.
Maybe a sneeze, but that's about
You
it.
see a chicken sneeze, but you don't see a chicken chapping his lips. So wild. Dr. Pauling, you know, Dr. Pauling has been
Yes.
taking massive quantities of vitamin C, and Golda Meir never had a cold. That's, well,
What
I
is
should have
that?
stopped about 2 jokes ago on that.
Okay, this one requires a little bit of explanation too. And I think it shows how well read Johnny Carson was. So what he's referring to with the studies of chicken soup, there was a study that came out in 1972 by Wilson and Katz that showed essentially the benefits of chicken soup in dealing with people who have colds. And he also drops a few other references in there too. So he refers to, which nobody in the audience gets. Maybe you understood them though. One is about Linus Pauling, he won the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 1954. And he was a huge advocate of taking vitamin supplements, including massive amounts of vitamin C. And he said that he never got a cold. Johnny also refers to Golda Meir, who at the time was the Prime Minister of Israel. And so he uses that because he's talking about chicken soup as Jewish penicillin, and Golda Meir was the leader of Israel at the time.
In Dear Abby, you know Dear Abby, people write in for advice. One of her readers wrote in today, and where they got this information I don't know, but it said if a vicious dog tries to attack you, you say shalom. So help me, that was in Would Dear Abby lie? Well, I had a chance to try it today.
All right.
Right in the parking lot. You probably saw that dog out there.
I did. That big dog in the parking lot?
Vicious dog. Looked like it was going to attack, and I said, shalom. And the dog said, it wouldn't help. If you buy that joke, you buy anything, won't you, tonight?
Okay, let me explain this about Dear Abby also, and Ann Landers, who was her sister. So Dear Abby was the column written by, her real name is Pauline Phillips, and she wrote under Dear Abby. And then her sister's name was Eppie Landerer, and she wrote under the name Ann Landers. Now, they were both syndicated columnists, and they both wrote advice, and they were twin sisters, and they grew to hate each other. Which is kind of sad. Dear Abby is still around, and it's written by her daughter. And Ann Landers died in 2002, and so they shut it down with her death. Her desk, though, is owned by Dan Savage, who writes the advice column Savage Love, if you've ever read that one before. Let's go to the next joke.
Did you know that there is a possible merger coming on with some of the major utilities? The electric, gas, and water companies may merge, and the telephone company.
Oh.
The new company is going to be called God.
Okay, this next joke the last joke requires a little bit of explanation too. So this is still 8 years away from the breakup of AT&T, which was the Bell telephone monopoly. And so people were worried about these conglomerations, these monopolies. And so at the time, it was a merger between PG&E, which is Pacific Gas and Electric, and the Southern Pacific Communications, which was actually owned by the Southern Pacific Railroad. It never actually went through, though. And I should mention, too, the Southern Pacific, or Sprint, the long distance company was actually an offshoot of the Southern Pacific Railroad. It's an acronym for Southern Pacific Railroad Internal Network Telecommunications, so SPRINT. And so it's interesting to find out where these things derivate from. Okay, one last joke to go.
Excuse me, dear?
It's time to go back to New York.
Time to go back to New York. Notice how the cruel ones always sit in the back?
Yeah.
Okay, that's not so much a joke as it is a comment, but it's still pretty funny. Especially when Johnny gets to deal with the audience and I guess what would be considered to be hecklers. So the Tonight Show used to be filmed in New York for years, actually for the first 10 years that it was on with Johnny Carson. And then they moved out to Burbank, California on May 1st, 1972. And so it had been, several months earlier. And then they made a permanent move out to California in 1973. So I'll put the link below so you can watch the entire monologue start to finish, because not all of his jokes require explanation. But I want to encourage you to visit timetravelsimplified.com to remind you that it's time travel or it's free. That if you pick up our book, which is The Final Apollo Mission for December 7th, 1972, that it'll feel like a time travel experience. And if it doesn't, then you get your money back, because I've worked on this methodology. I know that it works. It is truly a time travel experience. So we'll stop it at that. I hope you enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe. If you want to support my research, I have a link below to my Patreon account. And otherwise, have a great day.